What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Let's Dig Into That podcast. Just want to take a quick second and say thank you for everyone who's tuning in.
Thank you.
We feel the support. It is amazing. This is the podcast where we share our shit to shake the shame.
We do.
Absolutely. And what is Let's Dig Into That? It is a proclamation, a calling to connect. Our mission is to remain honest and curious, to promote intentional connection through meaningful conversations. And I do that with my lovely wife, Jordan. You already heard her. She is the passionate Pisces, the amenity maximizer.
The amenity maximizer.
What's going on, Jordan? How are you feeling?
I am feeling good today.
Yeah?
Yes.
I love that.
Sitting here with JT, my rom-com loving football playing honey.
Yeah.
Thank you for chatting with me today.
Of course. And I was thinking about something. You just got back from a little trip. You went back down to Boulder to see one of your besties. And you told me about Fancy Lady Night.
Fancy Lady Night. I got away for a little fancy lady getaway.
Oddly enough, it made me wicked jealous.
I knew it. You've come a long way in you feigned hype more than ever. And I appreciate it because I'm hyped enough, but I do appreciate a partnership in which you're like, that's going to be so much fun, even if through gritted teeth. I will take the encouragement.
You eating arancini and having bodino and all your favorite foods.
I ate all the flavors.
While I'm doing from the freezer tater tots. Yeah, definitely was missing out on some friendship time.
I feel zero bad about any of my choices.
And I'm glad. I don't want you to feel bad.
I am a better partner for you, wife, human being, participant in humanity when I have my friendship game on point, when I can. And friendship game on point. I want to rephrase that. When I am connecting, if it's more than one friend, how fortunate for me. But when there's something on lock there and we're rhythmic and you just feel superhero status, unstoppable force. So yes, I feel grateful that I snuck down for a very quick fancy lady adventure.
And got to see the little nugs.
Yes, I am crazy about her two daughters, 6 years old and 4 years old. And I've been meaning to tell you, so pretty cute. JT now gets that I recharge with my fancy lady time, which is a unique name. I'll give some credit to my girlfriend who came up with that. So we had fancy lady night, the two of us. She picks me up and we go out and we dive into all the flavors and the hot goss of our friendship, which involves equal parts retelling of the happiest times for the 10 millionth time and then planning 17 days worth of fun and activities for my 1 day stay.
Yep.
But we were fortunate to be treated to a symphony, little kiddo event and got some tickets to that. And we took the girls out for lunch, ate on the patio, and we had Fancy Lady Day and included the kiddos in that conversation. And so I have since returned home. I get a call yesterday from my girlfriend and she's like, get this. I pick up the eldest, the 6-year-old at a play date and, hey, what'd you guys do? And she's like, oh, we just talked today. And she's like, that's great. What'd you guys talk about? And she's like, and the 6-year-old says, I don't want to tell you. And my best friend trained correct goes, I get it. I totally get your point. You don't need to tell me. And she was able to elaborate on, Aunt Jordan was in town and that was so nice that you girls understood that Fancy Lady Night. We like to talk about all this stuff too. And I appreciate that you didn't need to be all up in my business. And so as I'm saying this, I can feel that I haven't helped the envy, jealousy of my trip.
Well, it's just baffling to me how female dynamics and friendships work. My experience...
It's baffling to us on the inside.
My experience witnessing them, I told you right from the get that I was raised by strong women. And I grew up around all these dynamics of a lot of women combining and friendships. And my mom's best friend, my dad's best friend, is... my Aunt Dawn, I'll use her name, and she's the oldest of 5 sisters. And so I watched their dynamic. I dated soccer girls my entire life. And so I'd always be in these groups of females. And when together, they talk shit. I don't know how else to put it.
Oh, so you're envious or terrified?
No, so here's the thing is I've also witnessed that if someone not in that group or clique says anything, it could even be the same exact words that were said when that person wasn't present, the rest of those girls want to throat punch you. And it's this bond that I don't get how you can be so nasty, but then
There was
the
so
love
little
does not
nasty
does
on my.
not change. Your trip's a little different, but I'm just explaining like I don't
Okay.
understand.
And to make sure I understand, you're saying they're talking shit on Sandy and
Uh-huh.
Sandy this, Sandy that. And then you,
If I were to
JT, step in and go, right? Sandy is kind of yada yada,
throat punch,
repeating. Yeah, get out, encroachment on the field. Yeah, you don't understand the words, the language itself. This is my own personal opinion that I feel my relationships, and I'm thinking about male female aside, but like those deep friendship connections, the language we use, it's like it's though it's subliminal, it's done with the eyes, maybe gestures, even though it can be done over the phone or remotely, but there's so much inherent, like all the apologies, like I don't really mean this and I'm probably just feeling off today, yada yada yada, that we get the context. And so we are safe and protected somehow. But I hate thinking about you associating those relationships with like this catty, gossipy. And I
well,
know
it's
you
not
know they're,
the envy comes from
yep.
as a guy, and I don't want to make these distinctions, but I'm only talking from my own experience. So please don't take this as an overgeneralization of things. But as a guy, when I witness female friendships, they appear to be nasty and mean to each other. And the things that are said are hurtful a lot of times behind someone's back and things like that. But it doesn't hold true moving forward. And so what I mean by that is if I make a statement about someone who I care about, maybe in a venting style where
You
I'm
want
just
to
I just I
vent.
just got to get this off my chest, but
I,
I don't really mean what I'm saying. I'm just feeling it in that frustration moment, but I say it out loud to someone. There's always consequence.
yes,
And I
breakthrough. We need a
and I don't
sound
see
effect.
that.
Bow, bow, bow. Once again, sound effect. JT's living example raised where this is how we communicate. This is how we move forward, that being the goal. And so you want to vent like the example that was set for you. And
Right.
when you do, I don't probably take that
No, I make
so well.
absolutes. I say things in
Oh,
absolutes
yeah,
and
nevers and
and
always.
I don't
And
ever get to go back, but I see girls do this all the time where they say something so shitty, but then it's just shoved under the rug because it's
I know she
understood.
didn't mean it.
And how come I can't be a part of the I know he doesn't mean that.
It's true and you can't.
Oh man.
But it does help. Like that does help my perspective in community where I'm going, yeah, he's having a full on hissy fit temper tantrum and I don't know how to deal with that. And if I go, just let him get it out, that actually, this is a really proactive move on my, because I can be like, he's not losing his mind. He is merely processing to, because I'm a big fan of, I try to healthy vent, but like, I feel like it's a pressure valve. And if I can get some shit off my chest, I am real quick to be like, whoo, I feel better. Let's move on.
Right.
And can genuinely feel a bit of like closure, not something that I hope I throw back at, into the ring later on,
Right.
undisclosed. So I appreciate that you,
I just am baffled by female relationships, and it's a positive thing. It comes from a place of envy where my relationships with my guy friends, I'd say that I have a pretty good group of dudes that are my good friends, but at the same time, like it's just a different dynamic. Like when I'm upset with one of my friends as a school kid and growing up, what you did about that was you went over and pushed him and told him what you thought, and then he told you what you thought, and that was the end of it. And it's sort of the same concept of like venting, but you said it straight to their face, went to them with the problem, and After a couple slugs and negative things said, it was no love lost, hugs, but that had to happen.
Hugs, nice touch.
Yeah, and so what I'm
You do have a
saying,
hugging group.
I don't see that go with the girls where there's conflict. It's discussed like behind their back, and then everyone moves
Why
forward.
would you be envious of that? Doesn't your approach seem sort of
It doesn't work that way as an adult. I
no, the
can't go
shoving?
and push a coworker and be like, "You did this shitty thing," and that's not going to go well. You know what I mean?
No.
And so I don't know. It's just it's a baffling dynamic to me of how female relationships work. And I'm not talking about sexual orientation. I'm just talking about friendships of like you have such a cool, close knit circle of caring, compassionate people, and I'm envious of that. And even when you guys are not being 100% nice, there's no love lost, and that's
And
the
that's the
difference.
language I think I'm referring to is when I mean, I'll use kind of that youth of the shoving on the playground, but imagine your bestie is moving away and you're like, oh no, she's going to have a new number one and, or goes to summer camp or is in a new classroom. And there is a competitive, it rarely comes out gracefully, but you kind of, yeah, get territorial and possessive with your friend. And so sometimes talking shit is probably a way that we subconsciously are like, this brings us closer together. I am solidifying my bond with you by we are this united front and momentarily being pissy about no name necessary.
Right.
And so it's not a good look. So I don't love that. I'm
Oh,
glad you're envious of the compassionate, positive side because I do think my
I'm
posse and I set a pretty damn good example.
You do, and I'm envious of the lack of consequences where there's like an understanding that this is venting. This is not a forever feeling. This is a moment in time of frustration, and then everyone moves on. And that hasn't been my experience as a guy, especially in dynamics where there's opposite sex friendships. And so I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on,
Well, it sounds like you need a best girlfriend.
and I have had a best
Right, because it
girlfriend.
isn't me apparently, because my girlfriends can get away with literal murder probably, and you cannot use absolutes without having the consequences of me being like, hey, roll
Right.
back the drama. Like, this is not how we communicate. Yeah.
But
So,
seriously, what are your,
opposite sex friendships.
yeah,
I feel that
can,
I've had a strong relationship with a person of the opposite sex, friendship wise, for most of my life.
okay. And did that never cross any boundary lines
Oh, I
into?
messed up boundaries all over the place. And so
So what's your take on
I
it?
think it can be, there's still very healthy ones, but I think also time and age where it's like, oh, we're great friends. And I think the age old story of my relationship has taken me in a new direction, whether I don't have time or my partner. I've definitely been in relationships where it's like, I don't love that you're hanging out with him. Like, you're going to go, you guys are just going to hit those restaurants. Like, that's kind of, like there are, so I think it depends on the relationship. But if there is a crossover into romantic feelings, I think it can get real slippery. Sure.
Gotcha.
Did you ever have, because you've had strong, like
Absolutely.
your besties through growing up and in like young adulthood?
Yeah, I had a lot of besties that were girls and women as we got older, and we never did cross any boundaries. And that was sort of maybe the difference in how I maintain those friendships. But what I'm sort of getting at through all this is I'm curious on how you invest emotionally in the people that you keep close. Like,
How do you build that?
how do you build that support network that we all need? I think we can agree on that we all need a support network. And if I'm speaking completely vulnerably, I don't have a great support network and I really need to build one.
Ooh.
And so I'm sort of looking at you who as someone who does have like a really great enviable network of people, and how do you build that? And the dynamics are so tricky between girl and girl, guy and guy. Like what is it that makes a meaningful connection and how do you cultivate that?
Wonderful questions. Wonderful questions. I think that it's really interesting. I love that you used the word invest because all relationships we are aware, like take work. And so there is the caveat of time where, you have those, like we can almost speak in code, or like with your eyes when you have those, very, we grew up together
Right.
type dynamics. And so that is harder as you get older to kind of create that. And so that common ground you're seeking, and then kind of hoping for the best that, oh, yay, our kids are on the same team. Please love these, authors as well, or, these, you're streaming these shows, whatever it might be.
Right.
And so investing was such a cool perspective because it matters to me. Like I mentioned, my girlfriend and her two kiddos, like a lot of my people have chosen to procreate, and I am crazy about being involved in their lives as much as I can from
Auntie J, yeah.
Auntie J and living where I do. And I love sending things, like I invest by sending little stickers and cards in the mail. I pick up the phone. If somebody pops in my head at random twice, I'm calling them or shooting a text that usually requires nothing back because
I love that.
my
That's a great
introverted,
strategy.
I have a pretty tight knit close circle because I am not a social butterfly anymore. I can be, but I
But
tap out.
it's forced. And
It is.
You don't love it all the time.
Yeah,
I get that.
my dream dinner party is kind of six or less, and so
I get that.
and yeah, so I think the investment is clutch, and so
Well, I
being
loved what you said about if that person's on your mind twice in a very, close time frame, why wouldn't you reach out? I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me because one of my biggest struggles is sports. I don't want to over talk about that, but when you play sports your whole life, you have a built-in friend network the whole time. And when you exit that arena, it's difficult to find friendships because you had these built-in, you all share a common bond, you're on a team. And then that kind of goes away. And
because it's the common conversation too. You had this built-in, we can all discuss topic, and then it becomes what else, which is, I mean, a larger conversations for athletics
yeah,
at
totally.
that level anyway. But yes, what do you build from?
Well, and that's the other thing is like, I've been saying the word envy a lot because it's not really on course for me to pick up the phone when I'm having a hard day and chat about it with my best buddy. You know what I mean? That's not a typical dynamic. And the truth of the matter is, I know in my heart and mind that there are 10 to 15 to 20 people I could call that would be willing to support me in a moment of need. But in that moment, I don't feel comfortable picking up the phone to reach out to these folks because it's never been the bond that we've shared. And how do you break through that moment? Particularly, and I'm asking a girl, but like, I'm really just like putting myself out there of like, I want to have these better connections and I don't know how to go about it.
And that's the when things are bad, stressful, overwhelming, and you need, I think my best unsolicited advice for you would be investing your word ahead of time, where I think it's that open line of communication, because it is very daunting to be like, I miss so and so. That's going to be a sit down, make sure I have something to drink. Like, we're going to catch up.
Right.
And I do my best. My introversion has trained me to be like little bit, little bit, little bit. And I also practice a sincere amount of vulnerability where I'm not just like, yay, something shiny. I'm like, here's a quick little nugget of shit that got real in my life. Like, yeah. So here's the thing is a
Right.
big opening line of mine, or get this is what my mom uses quite a bit. And so I try to make sure that I'm like, you are in enough where it's important to me to know that my people can come to me more than I probably lean on you in that way, where I'm like, if I need to get some, I want you to feel the same, but I'm like, there's nothing I feel that's off the table with you. And I can
Right.
just lay that out there. And there's some things that I will only talk to them about,
Right.
but I need to make sure that I am always in a position where I will never feel, the friendships I invest in are the ones where I will never hesitate to be like, they're going to be bothered, irritated. Screw that noise. I will never, like, yeah, you can be in the middle of something and I'll be like, hey, my world's on fire. And they're like, at happy hour, I will call you when I get home. And that's all I need. I know I'll be all
Right.
right till I get home. And so I think that I like to maintain, I want to invest my yeses. I want to be there. I want to show up. I want to fly
bank the
down for
yeses.
Fancy Lady Day at the symphony. And yeah, I want all these kiddos to know, like, oh crap, I'm in a pickle. Call Auntie J. And
Yeah.
so it's equally important though, but when I go, I've noticed that fancy lady night was just as important to be just the two of us as it was for me to be very active
And so
and engaged in the relationship with their children.
you know what that says to me, and I'm realizing I got a lot of work to do in this realm. I want to have that support network, but you just talked about something without even really putting it in there, but you honor the boundaries of that relationship. You know what I mean? You just acknowledge like it was important that it was just my good friend and I in that moment. And I think that's where I maybe struggle is like establishing those boundaries. And I think when you use the word invest, and maybe I said it first, but the way I have always invested my friendships is through boundaries. And I think that that's problematic in many ways, but also,
That you are honoring their.
well, too conscious of theirs or um, putting up my own because I'm afraid of the reaction that's going to happen, if that makes any kind of sense. But I think that there's a lot of truth to be said that staying true and honoring your boundaries is a great way to invest in a friendship. And what I mean by that is I'm thinking back to that sort of male female friendship dynamic. There has to be some boundaries. And if you don't respect them, it's going to really hinder the friendship. And I get caught up in the boundaries of a relationship and not really understanding what they need or what I need. And therefore, it makes it hard to do the outreach to try to connect. And I don't know, what's your take on boundaries and how they are they an investment in a friendship? Can
What
they?
an amazing perspective to, because I would consider like my gut reaction is my best friendships. Like I am a boundaryless, filterless. Please tell me you're going to take this. I thank my friends for their friendship probably more often than is common. But I think that's very, because you are driven by respect and kindness,
Yes,
and
kindness
you
month.
are immensely thoughtful. Like JT is the kind of man that would be holding his own arm and let me finish my thought and be like, "Hey, would you mind when you get a second running me to the hospital? Because this whole arm detached thing." And I'd be like, "Oh my God, let's go." And so I think that it can be limiting, that
Yeah,
you
I feel
need to.
limited by that because that's rarely reciprocated.
Right. And so I think role modeling what you want them to be able to talk to you like, how
Yeah.
you would want them to come to you, being able to provide that. Because I will say you have a spectacular group of friends that are from athletics to Tai Chi and we always talk mental
Yoga,
health and who's
mindfulness. Yeah.
reading like the book exchange. Like you have a really yeah, very multifaceted posse of dudes
Yeah, absolutely
and
true.
females mixed in there too that have that good history. And so I think all the ingredients of that of which you seek is available.
Right.
And so it is picking up the phone and just having those little thought of something funny is the easiest,
Yeah.
one off. Or
Two-way street. I mean, that's really what it comes down to for me.
reciprocation is real.
It
And there are
is.
phases, and those are the relationships that you decide how much, vulnerability am I going to allow myself, where I can understand like the classic, like they're in a new relationship, they've got the love head,
Yep.
and they are unavailable to me on every level, and I'm questioning our entire everything. If you can power through that, or you've established, like, hey, remember me, and can have those conversations, like, I feel those relationships circle back if you are investing by hanging on and still being there and not holding resentment where they come back and you're like, okay, so I guess we'll just pick up where we left off 9 months ago. Like I think
Right.
it does take a lot of grace, a lot of forgiveness, because friendship for me is I want no holds barred. Like I want to be able to, I'm a caretaker. I want to show me where it hurts and
Right.
let me carry some of that for you. And so that means I have to show them where it hurts.
Right. You got to do the same thing. That's really interesting.
What a cool thing, though, to be in a position where you're like, I really care about having a great support network and I hope I'm doing what I can. Giving a shit is a really good look on you.
Well, that's sort of what my main belief through the last 3 years of working in residential care and being someone who cares for other people. connection is how we heal. And I truly believe that. And I'm recognizing in my own life, I have a lack of connection. And so I want to do better. And I really appreciate the sort of, again, things I'm going to hold on to. I love your idea of if that person's popped up into my head twice this week, why would I reach out to them? Like, I don't know. It takes effort. And I really appreciate your advice and direction on that.
We always love being on the receiving end when somebody just sends you a little. I got some unexpected little cute photos of faces that I missed the other day, and I'm like, man, that really filled me up.
Yeah.
And so I love where your intention is set. And so tell your people you love them.
Right.
Try to be a good friend.
I love that.
I've got to circle back that you didn't, there was no preparation. But JT saying the words, I was raised by a strong group of women. I was like, did he get like my resume or something? Like, yeah. I was like, that sounds like a plug. And so
Well,
I do
it's-
appreciate that. And we are proud to make you envious and confused for the rest of your days.
Well, I can guarantee you that's probably going to happen. So, not a problem. Well, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you, baby.
Thank you for being so honest with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning into the Let's Dig Into That podcast. I'm JT.
And I'm Jordan. Appreciate having you with us.